What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my Big 12 football predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. I give you my predictions already for the Big 10 and the SEC conferences. If you have not seen those two videos from a couple of days ago and then from yesterday, be sure to go back and check those videos out right here on the channel. And I also gave you my conference champion prediction as well, and that's what we're going to do in this video. Going to show you my Big 12 football team predictions for this 2025 season and show you what the standings could look like based on my predictions. And then I'll give you my conference champion for the Big 12 as well at the end of this video. We still got my playoff predictions coming up very soon, and we're going to close things out with these predictions for the ACC tomorrow. So stay tuned for that video coming out tomorrow. But let's go ahead and jump right into my Big 12 football predictions for 2025, and we'll start from the way bottom here. So Cincinnati at the way bottom here for my predictions at 4-8 and then 2-7 in the Big 12 conference. Now Cincinnati, I feel like can do much better than that 4-8 record. I look at this Cincinnati team and you look at the roster, I feel like Cincinnati has got a team that can obviously make it to a bowl game this year. But I just still do have question marks about Scott Satterfield and what he's got going for this Cincinnati football program. Obviously his first year didn't really go so well, but last year was definitely an improvement. I think this team is legitimately a bowl eligible type team this year, but because of how tough their schedule is, I think Cincinnati is really not up there with the top teams in the Big 12, but there's a lot of parity in this conference, so Cincinnati definitely can make a bowl game this year. I think they at least win a couple of games in the Big 12. I don't really expect anybody to go winless, so yeah, I don't think anybody is going to go winless in this conference. This Big 12 is obviously wide open. You're going to see a lot of teams really battling for a spot in the Big 12 championship this year, but for the Bearcats, I think they're going to be at some sort of the bottom of the Big 12, but again, I feel like this could be a surprise team in 2025, so I don't feel confident with my prediction for Cincinnati at 4-8 and then 2-7 in conference play. I can definitely see this team going 6-6 in my opinion, and depending on their conference record, it could be 3-6 or 4-5. Moving on though to the next set of teams, we got Oklahoma State, another team also at 4-8 and then 2-7 in conference play. I feel like the Cowboys could be the worst team in the Big 12 this year because I am not quite high on this team as I was from last year, and you got the other team in Utah. These were two teams that I actually picked to go to the Big 12 championship last year, and they obviously were disappointments. So these two teams I think are going to take a big drop again from where they were last year. For Utah, though, they could actually be a little bit better than Oklahoma State, but for the Cowboys, they just have so many question marks on both sides of the football, and that's the reason why I got this team going 4-8 and then 2-7 in conference play. Now last year they did not win a single Big 12 champion or a Big 12 game. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think Oklahoma State's going to at least win at least one game or even a couple games in the Big 12 at best. The best case scenario for them will probably be like 3 wins or 4 wins, and they could still make it to a bowl game. But I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be a contender in the Big 12 this year. Like how it was last year, they did not succeed their expectations. And I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be good. And like I said, they could be the worst team in the Big 12 this year. I'm just not really high on this team. And then same thing for Utah. You got Arizona here as well. These two teams both at 5-7, 3-6 in conference play. You look at Arizona, they might have a better chance than Utah and Oklahoma State both to make it to a bowl game this year. Maybe Arizona does improve this year because it is their second-year head coach and everything. So maybe the Wildcats do have something going in the right direction, but obviously last year was a disappointment. Maybe this year they can turn things around. But these two teams, Utah and Arizona, one of these two teams could possibly, get to a bowl game this year. But I think they'll win at least 3 games in the Big 12 this year. So again, with a lot of parity in this conference, I don't really expect anybody to go winless. I think the teams that definitely have a chance to probably go winless in the Big 12, it's just probably Oklahoma State. I don't know if they can win a Big 12 game this year, but I think they're going to at least win a couple. And they also got a non-conference game against Oregon. That's obviously going to be the big story there in the non-conference schedule for the Cowboys. But Oklahoma State and Utah, these two teams, actually I should say Utah and Arizona, both of them 5-7, 3-6 in conference play. And then you got West Virginia and Houston. I got these two teams going to a bowl game this year. I got Houston winning the West Virginia matchup here. Those two teams do go head-to-head against each other, and I do got the Cougars winning that game. I know people are saying that West Virginia is going to be the worst team in the Big 12. I disagree. I think this West Virginia team has a chance to be not great or anything like that. They do have a first-year head coach, and they do have a lot of new players. Yeah, they lost so many players from the transfer portal, but with their first-year head coach, and this is a coach that's been here at West Virginia before, I think the Mountaineers are definitely being slept on here for 2025. So yeah, West Virginia, they are just going to be a pretty average team, a team that's going to definitely make it to 6-6 in my opinion, or they can go 5-7, or maybe they're a little bit, definitely how people are going to be expecting them to be. So yeah, West Virginia here at 6-6 and then 3-6, and then for Houston, I feel like Houston is going to make it to a bowl game. Pretty tough start to the Willie Fritz era from last year. Houston definitely I think will be a lot better this season. They got Connor Weeman coming over, the transfer quarterback from Texas A&M. We've seen the good Connor Weeman and then also the bad Connor Weeman at Texas A&M. Which Connor Weeman will they get? That's going to be the question there for the Cougars. But again, I got West Virginia and Houston both going to bowl games this year at 6-6 and then 3-6 in conference play. We actually had a bunch of teams here at 3-6, and then we also got a bunch of teams, or I should say just 3 teams at 4-5, as we're now on the next set of teams. Colorado, TCU, and UCF. Colorado and TCU are both 6-6, and then UCF at 7-5. I'll start with Colorado first. I think it's going to be a bit of a step back for the Buffaloes compared to last year. This team is definitely losing, some key pieces from last year's team. Travis Hunter and, Shadir Sanders both gone to the NFL. That's obviously huge losses, but you got Caden Salter. I think it's really going to come down to him, what he does at the quarterback position for the Buffaloes. If he can develop here for Colorado, I think Colorado will definitely be a dark horse in the Big 12, but if he doesn't, if he is really inconsistent, I think it's going to be a 6-6, 7-5 Colorado type team this year. But I got this team going 4-5 in Big 12 play, and then TCU is ahead of Colorado because of the head-to-head matchup. Yeah, both of these teams are tied, with the record-wise, and then also conference record-wise, but still, I got to go with the head-to-head. I got the Horned Frogs beating the Buffaloes in that head-to-head matchup. TCU is a team that I think could do a little bit better than that 6-6 record as well. This team usually is a dark horse team in the Big 12, but, they have a non-conference game against North Carolina. If they win that game on the road against Bill Belichick's Tar Heels, I think TCU definitely probably goes 7-5 or even 8-4. So, yeah, TCU is a team I think you got to keep an eye on because they're usually that consistent team in the Big 12, but either way, I got this team going 6-6, and then UCF at 7-5, 4-5 in conference play. I know that's a pretty high prediction. You got Scott Frost returning as the head coach here for the Knights, and yeah, that's a pretty high prediction. But you look at the schedule; it sets up so well for UCF, and that's the reason why I got this team going 7-5. Yeah, it could be definitely a turnaround of a season for the Knights. But the question is, though, which Scott Frost are we going to get here for UCF? Is it going to be the Scott Frost that was at UCF a long time ago, or is it going to be the Scott Frost from Nebraska that lost a lot of close games? That is obviously a big question mark to answer going into 2025, but because of how their schedule sets up, I think UCF has a legitimate chance to have a pretty solid season, and Scott Frost is returning as the head coach here for this program. And then you got Kansas also at 7-5, but 5-4 in conference play. I do have them losing a non-conference game to Missouri on the road. That game, of course, is going to be a tough one there for the Jayhawks. The Jayhawks definitely could probably be a little bit worse than that 7-5 record. Maybe they don't turn things around. Maybe the Jayhawks are kind of back to their old ways, but still, I feel like this team is going to turn things around. I think last year was just a pretty tough schedule, and this year I think they can definitely get back to bowl-eligible type team. I don't think they're a dark horse, though, in the Big 12, in my opinion. So these teams that you're seeing right here, Kansas, UCF, TCU, and Colorado, they could be like a little bit of dark horse teams, but you're going to see the highest dark horse team in just a minute. But you got Baylor here at 8-4 and then 6-3 in conference play. I'm pretty high on this Baylor team. I talked about this team ever since the month of January. They have a bunch of experience coming back on both sides of the football, and they also got their starting quarterback in returning as well. And I also got them beating that Auburn team in the non-conference game that they play on Friday to open up the season. So for Baylor, I think this team is going to be pretty good. I think they're definitely a legit dark horse team, but they're not my top dark horse team in the Big 12. It's this next team as we go to the final set of teams here in the Big 12. Texas Tech, I think they're the top dark horse team in the Big 12 this year. The Red Raiders, this team has a lot coming back. You look at both sides of the football, plenty of experience on both sides of the football, including the quarterback, and then also you got some transfers to come in to help them out, and also their schedule sets up well, and that's kind of the reason why I got Texas Tech here going 9-3. This is definitely the most underrated team in my opinion heading into 2025, and you never know, they could come out of nowhere and just make the college football playoff. But I got this team going 6-3 in conference play, and like I said, I think they're definitely the top dark horse team in the Big 12 this year. And then you got Iowa State and Kansas State also at 9-3, and then 6-3 in conference play. I do got the Wildcats beating the Cyclones in that game again in Dublin, Ireland, and that's the reason why Kansas State ended up being ahead of Iowa State here in the standings. So I feel like Iowa State and Kansas State, it could be a step back here for the Cyclones because they definitely have some question marks at the receiving position. And then for Kansas State, I think it does come down to the quarterback position in Avery Johnson. I think he's just going to have to be consistent in order for the Wildcats to have a pretty good year. But yeah, these three teams, they're all tied here at 6-3 in the conference and then 9-3 overall. These three teams could definitely challenge either BYU or Arizona State here for the standings in the Big 12. And then you look at BYU at 10-2 and then 7-2 in conference play. For BYU, you obviously got the question mark with Jake Razliff going to Tulane. So who's going to step up at the quarterback position? That'll be obviously a big question. But I think BYU is going to be just fine. The Cougars definitely have a lot of experience coming back to where I think this is a team that can definitely still make it to the Big 12 championship. And you never know, maybe a college football playoff appearance as well. But the team that I have at the top of the standings, it's none other than Arizona State. I got this team going 11-1 and then 8-1 in conference play. Yeah, the Sun Devils I feel like are the favorite to win the Big 12 this year because this team has a lot coming back, even though they lost Cam Scadaboo at running back. Sam Levitt has proven to us that he is a really good quarterback here for this Arizona State football team, and they got some weapons at wide receiver, so this could be a very dangerous Sun Devils team, and like I said, that's the reason why I do got them going 11-1. I know it's really impossible to go 11-1 in this conference and also undefeated because of the parity in this conference. Yeah, Arizona State and BYU both could probably go 10-2, but still make it to the Big 12 championship, or they can go 9-3. That's definitely probably, the best case scenario. Worst case scenario probably for both of these teams will be 8-4, and then best case is probably 10-2. But I got Arizona State at 11-1, and then BYU at 10-2, and that is my Big 12 championship matchup prediction. So let's now get to the Big 12 championship prediction. Here we got BYU versus Arizona State. These two teams don't meet each other in the regular season this year, like they did last season. The Sun Devils beat BYU in that head-to-head matchup last season, but this year they don't meet each other, so they will probably meet for the first time in the Big 12 championship, possibly, but another team could probably emerge to challenge Arizona State. You look at this matchup, though, two very well-experienced teams on both sides of the football, but you look at this Arizona State team. I've kind of been favoring them ever since the beginning of the offseason. I was kind of favoring BYU, ever since Jake Razliff was back here for quarterback for the Cougars. But with him gone, I just don't really trust BYU at the quarterback position. Sam Levitt has definitely got a ton of experience at quarterback, more than the incoming quarterback probably for BYU this year. So yeah, Arizona State, that definitely is an advantage for them. And I just think the physicality of this Sun Devil team and the coaching staff, it will be enough here for Arizona State to pull off a huge win here against BYU in the Big 12 championship. So I'm going Arizona State to win it all in the conference this year, in this conference of the Big 12. But again, a ton of parity in this conference. This conference really just goes either way. It's been wide open ever since this conference was built. But ever since these new teams came in, this conference is just going to be fun to watch in the future. But I got the Sun Devils winning it all this year in the Big 12, and that's definitely going to guarantee them a college football playoff spot this year in 2025. So the Sun Devils, I got them winning the Big 12, and those are my Big 12 football standings for 2025, and all my team predictions here for this conference as well. Give me your predictions for the Big 12 and give me your Big 12 football champion down in the comments below for 2025. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.